And welcome to another edition of XFeed. Today and every day we go through rapid fire news regarding the Web3 space. We got news about cool cats, we got Ethereum hitting 4K, we have the Ripple and SEC debacle that's seemingly like, okay, cool, that's done, that's dusted. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We've seen everything starting to fly. Well, not everything exactly. We're going to piece together some aspects, give some references, and of course, try to be as entertaining as possible as you're getting ready to enjoy your weekend. Any shares, any likes, any comments, all that kind of stuff, feel free to leave it. Let me know. Every day is just Omega bullish crypto news on repeat. And I really mean that. We've been covering this for a while, and I don't know if we've had a stretch of every single day. Huge, hard-hitting, like supposedly market moving activity that in a lot of cases doesn't seem to move the market for whatever reason, but it's starting to actually have that impact where the market is really starting to go. The beginning of the year, we had a whole bunch around Bitcoin, and now it seems that everything's to follow. And it's weird that Solana right now seems to be like the most underperforming aspect, but don't worry, we will specifically talk about Solana as well. So Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, crypto is at its Blockbuster versus Netflix moment. Right now, businesses are going on-chain and adopting crypto because they want to. They get it. Also think, when we've made the comments about video games and how there's these marketplaces and the ability to transact. Take a game right now, right? For an example, Warzone, League of Legends. You buy a skin that makes your weapon cool or your character a little bit different. You can't do anything with that. But imagine that $10 skin you bought, if you were able to sell it on a secondary market, even for $2, and let's say there's like a 50-cent fee that goes, imagine the flywheel effect, which is like the word of the year for Web3 that everybody loves to use, that would happen in terms of revenue and everything else for these companies. They realize, how can we take more advantage of that? It's going to happen. Soon, the other businesses will be desperately trying to catch up. They'll go on-chain because they need to. My advice, be early. Now, here's another clip from Brian Armstrong. This is about a 2-minute one, but it's talking about security, and it's pretty wild.
I'll tell you like a little story actually from that day, because, you know, you can imagine we're kind of sleep deprived. We were like working 14-hour days, 7 days a week, trying to keep up with all this. And I remember we were in the office one day and eating lunch, and there was just like maybe 3 or 4 of us around the table. And somebody is looking at their computer and they're like, hey, there's a lot of like refunds going out to customers. That's weird. Like, we all looked around. None of us are doing it. Who's sending all these refunds? We realized this hacker had broken into one of our systems that, like an admin interface on the back end that allows you to issue refunds to customers. And he was just sending refunds to himself as fast as he could, right? And we were like, oh shit. So we go in there, we shut down the site temporarily. Customers can't access it either. And we're like, how did he get in here? We start trying to debug it. We find the way that he accessed this particular system, and we patch it and we come back online. And in the time that he was able to send out all these refunds as fast as he could, you know, I think we had lost maybe $50,000 or something like that. Now at that time we had only raised, I think, that 300,000 or 400,000 that I mentioned. And so 50,000 out of 300 or 400,000, we were still alive, you know? But if he had started doing that at midnight while we were all asleep, we would have been out of business by morning.
Wow.
You know, because we caught it within like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just pure luck that like Coinbase would not exist today. That was like a coin flip, that if that hacker had waited till midnight to start doing it and we hadn't noticed, we would have been insolvent by morning.
That is a crazy story and highlights the wildness that is crypto itself. And then we see where Coinbase is today. So glad that they were able to catch that. Anon, NFL preseason broadcast announcer just made a joke about Bitcoin. Have you heard about Bitcoin yet? It's an upside down world. Well, we got haters out there, but we might actually still be early. And as Brian Armstrong said, all you need to be is early. So Trump signs 2 major executive orders that include crypto. Obviously, we've highlighted these over the past few days, but just as a catch up, if you're tuning in for the first time or hearing about it. So the first EO executive order directs the Labor Department and SEC to open 401k retirement plans to crypto, private equity, and other alternative assets, potentially unlocking access to over $12 trillion in retirement savings. The second order targets debanking, where individuals or companies denied banking services for political or ideological reasons. This has particularly impacted the crypto industry, with many firms reporting sudden account closures or denials. So again, I think both of those are really awesome, and we'll see kind of what the trickle-down effect looks like. But Bo from Pudgy Penguin's also saying the institutions have two choices right now with that 401k investment opening. One, either buy even more Bitcoin that they already are at cheaper prices before their 401k customers can, or let their customers front run them if they realize. And again, that was something that it's not been talked about for a while, well, I guess like passively, but there was all this notion around, okay, well, Binance or even Coinbase or these bigger exchanges, well, they're trading against the customers because they can see who's long shorting, who's doing what, and everything else under the sun. And so for these other companies, right, and the people that are able to offer these 401ks, well, what are they going to do with all of these headlines focusing on crypto? Now, one of the meme coins within the space, Dogwifhat, the original cap apparently was up for sale. At one point, it was $800,000. Good question here from Jonah saying, how does one know it's the original? I agree. How the hell can you tell? But it sold for, I guess, that price at $792,000. Now, the photo itself back in 2024 apparently sold for $4.3 million. But kind of crazy to think you put a hat on your dog, take a photo, and that is the ramification effects. Institutions have bought over 500,000 Bitcoin, while miners have only mined under 100,000 new Bitcoin in 2025. Institutions playing an absolutely huge part of things. And one next little component that I want to go into is we've talked so much about these treasury companies around crypto, and we're seeing token buyback aspects. And so here's Vitalik, Canadian, also the founder of Ethereum, or at least one of the founders, talking about that aspect that there are these treasury companies going out right now. What's his take on it?
The whole aspect of coordinating around ETH just being an asset that companies can have as part of their treasury is good and valuable, and like giving having different vehicles for people to have access to ETH, which is I think one of the reasons why like people are buying into treasury companies instead of just hodling ETH directly is also good, right? Like giving people more options is good. There's always people in all kinds of different financial circumstances that put all kinds of like requirements or incentives or properties on like what formats of things that they participate in. And so no, I think there's definitely very valuable services that are being provided there.
So again, Vitalik's like, hell yeah, these treasury companies are exactly that we're wanting to see. Now I want to jump over to Paul Barron, who had Sue on, who is the CEO of Animoca Brands. And we've seen, this is a horrible time for me to pause the thing. Yeah, smiling here. But there's a couple different funny components within this conversation. But one of the things that stood out to me when I watched this yesterday was how he phrased certain components, especially around buybacks. And on top of the institutions and the treasury companies that we've been talking about, the token buybacks of any sort have been a very, very prominent discussion. So here's a little bit of a conversation around just token buybacks.
You guys did your partnership here with Carrot. There's doing some acquisition, I guess, in some point, I guess, buyback. You were talking about cultural treasury. There's a handful of others out there that would probably fall into this. Tower Token was one. Yes. What are you trying to do with this? And do you think that these treasury companies, in your particular case, cultural treasury, are a fad, or do you think this is something that we're going to see a lot more of?
No, I think you're going to see a lot more of it because it's a nice little bridge between the, let's call it TradFi investor and crypto investor. And at the end of the day, whether it's an ETF or a company that holds these assets, but the thing about altcoins, particularly whether it's gaming or whether it's tokens like Mocha or Pengu or ApeCoin or whatever it is, they actually have ways in which you generate yield, and you can trade them and you can hedge them and you can do stuff. So there's actually an asset. Crypto as an asset class trades between $150 to $200 billion a day. Right. So we're talking about something that it is larger than the New York Stock Exchange. Now, why are we doing this, these buybacks?
Yeah.
However, the tokens themselves haven't appreciated as much in value because of narrative. Right now, you can buy these strong gaming projects at basically a discount from their investment round. And there's so many of them. So we're not going to stop at just these three, where we did Across the Ages, we did My Pet Hooligan, which is Carrot, we did Tau. We want to build more of them. And then, there's nothing that necessarily stops us from saying, and you know what? We are the largest gaming investor in Web3, and we could possibly do a treasury company with all those gaming tokens eventually in the future together as well, right? Gaming is about a $20 to $22 billion combined market cap in crypto. So you could say it's small compared to others, but it's, it's come from zero over time. But more importantly, we're going to get, the 100 million users into crypto are going to enter the space because of gaming. And then you want to take a look at the good projects. And do you want to go and buy, something that could go from 10 or 20 or, 10, 20, 30 billion, that's already billions of dollars? Or there's a chance to buy some gems in the market that are literally single-digit millions.
Okay, so I'm going to make a request. If you feel like you didn't listen to everything that he had to say, pause the stream, go back a little bit, and listen to everything he said, talking about having a specific fund of some sort where it's all of these gaming companies together within something that even if something fails, simply being a part of this could end up pushing up the floor price. Or sorry, I guess floor price is more for like NFTs, but like the low end of what the prices are for these tokens. The fact that he also is calling and saying that gaming is pretty much coming on chain. So we're talking about Immutable X, we're talking about Ronin chain potentially. Remember, there's a lot of ones that are trying to focus with on gaming. And like as an example, I'm going to kind of like jump ahead here to to this post because I had it a little bit later, but in reference to Solana here, Paradigm's Frank Loss says Solana already has the technology to support internet capital markets at scale, but many folks in TradFi and TradTech mostly see it as a meme coin or scam chain. The real objective to ICM is changing that perspective. Now, I get that this doesn't necessarily mention gaming, but it does have the likes of Star Atlas, it does have the likes of Portal, which is the guest that we have on next week's edition of RWA Segments. And again, if you want to check that out, the link's in the description down below or in my bio on X. We've had some friggin' fantastic guests, and if there's anybody that you're wanting me to actually talk to, feel free to reach out, DM me for suggestions. We'll be happy to look into that. But I mean, we're at a point that, okay, is gaming only exclusive to like the chains that say, hey, we're like a gaming chain, or, where Solana potentially has the ability to cover everything within there? What exactly does that look like? And so this is something that I'm very intrigued about. Now, to bring it kind of full circle and give a little bit of a thought in your head, right? So Animoca Brands announced that they're strategically investing in Cool Cats. Now, the thing that's odd about this, or I guess where we have like a little bit of questions, is what does this look like in terms of the Featureverse partnership with them? And you guys know that we've done a bunch of Featureverse videos before, and we do have a cool one potentially coming out next week, so stay tuned for that. But from last year, Featureverse and Animoca Brands formed strategic partnership with mutual investment to fuel technology stack and a token ecosystem growth. Now, I don't think we've seen anything because like Root, Asto, Silo, they were like, hey, we're going to help support those ecosystems and put the technology into everything that's going around, because Animoca has like 400 products, and I don't think we've seen a lick of anything with that. So is Animoca just giving money to Cool Cats for them to do a token, for them to do a game, which they've tried before? What exactly does this look like? So there is a little bit of questions around this, because it does seem like Animoca, based off what Yat said, is like, okay, we're just kind of taking darts and we're throwing it at everything because we have the opportunity. And I've made the same arguments before, is everybody's so focused on these coins and market caps that are, $1 billion. And there are a lot of potential hidden gems. And I get there's risks involved and everything else. And we've seen so many gaming aspects that have not done that well. But the way that Yat positioned that, I was like, Now, one of the other interesting components with it, and probably biggest takeaway from that interview, and we'll go back and play this to try to give you the full circle again, but just in Animoca Brands, Standard Chartered Bank in Hong Kong, I believe that's what that means, and HKT launch Core Point Financial to pursue HKMA stablecoin issuer license. All right, so I don't know what the hell some of these I think AHK just means Hong Kong and all the other stuff. But within this interview, if we go to where the hell is the stablecoins instead of Asian virtual currencies? Son of a gun. I wish I'd clicked on this beforehand, because there was a specific thing where he goes around and says, well, I think that banks and these gaming companies are going to actually work together moving forward. Yeah. Okay, so here's the stablecoin piece. This might not be the exact one, but this interview is like pretty wild, to be honest. But hopefully this is it.
It's entirely possible. So Take-Two could sort of pull it off.
Is talking about, and you kind of consider, all right, that maybe the alternative here would.
And this is talking about GTA 6 and the aspect of them having some kind of like a digital currency.
Be a stablecoin, because this could be a scenario that could take over some of the digital components here. Would you predict maybe that they might try to go that route, actually launching a stablecoin?
Yes.
And maybe, okay, you think so?
Yeah. So I think a stablecoin is much more likely. A couple of reasons. One, the Genius Act actually opens it up already. And
Sure.
while you can't expect the gaming companies to do that first, Amazon and Walmart and probably Facebook and probably Google as well, like we don't know for sure, but they're all probably thinking about it. Oh, there's a legislation now, there's a rule where I can actually do that. And one of the challenges always when you have changes with a new presidency is it actually something that is in law, or is it something that can be changed at any time, like an executive order?
Right.
And the Genius Act basically just passed through law, which means that it's much more certain that you can build on something in the long term for it, right? So stablecoins will probably be the first thing that people issue. Is it possible, therefore, that gaming companies around the world, particularly in the US, will start issuing their own stablecoins? I think it's entirely possible. So Take-Two could sort of pull it off, but the difference is that they use the cash for operations rather than as a exchange medium, shall we say?
Right.
So there's a difference there, right? So if you're a bank, you're actually you basically have a license to print money, right? Effectively, right? But if you are a game studio, you don't really have that, and so they do need the cash flow that they generate from the currency of the sales of the virtual currency to basically pay for stuff like salaries and costs and all that kind of stuff inside the game. And the pure interest that might generate might not be enough relative to that because it's still a product. So I see it's much more likely that they might partner with a set of companies that are going to issue these stablecoins, and they might be sharing maybe the yield from it or something like that. So
okay.
So
basically the question with that is, do we see where banks and these gaming companies and whatnot partner together to create stablecoins? And just the concept, right, that we had this kind of elusive dystopian to an extent of online digital economies, and then it's like, well, holy crap, we're kind of talking about that like almost right here, right now. It's absurd. But love that we're getting to that point. SEC and Ripple XRP officially end legal battle following joint dismissal of appeals, and that just sent XRP to the absolute moon. Holy smokes. It was up 7% in a day. Again, kind of just whatever. The announcement comes out yesterday about midday and then just went completely vertical. We've seen a lot of other trickle-down effects from this, but everybody's kind of, feeling good on this Friday. So there was a point here where yesterday that Coinbase tweeted out this Bitcoin thing that was an Ordinals NFT collection, essentially. And the collection went up 25% because Elon Musk retweeted. And we've seen where Doge and other things within crypto, certain individuals post about it, and it gets some traction. So Finn, with an interesting take here that I'm going to make the argument for the other side of things. But let's see what he has to say. Last bull run, many people got burned from buying based on celebrity picks or their launched project. This cycle, I think the hype meta of having influential people acknowledge your project will have no effect on floor price. People are realizing that adds no value whatsoever. So, okay, I think like at face value, we can say, all right, maybe there's a couple people that are like within the space that are, I don't know, more mature to an extent, but also when people have money that they're willing to spend, feeling a little bit internet rich, I think it goes the other way. And so here's a phenomenal example of that. Xcopy, which just had one of their NFTs get put on loan for $1 million. Somebody was willing to pay for that. Unbelievable. Right? Big name. Highlighted this collection that's of crypto fish. And it is a pixelated fish. This is now selling for like $800 simply because Xcopy highlighted it. It took a little bit to sell out. And then people went absolutely crazy on the timeline. And I don't know if this collection would have sold out if Xcopy didn't highlight it, because it got 18,000 views on it. Xcopy is a massive name, which again, just had an art piece that sold for how much? on a loan. Again, excuse me, it didn't sell. Somebody just took $1 million loan against it. Somebody was willing to do that for $1 million. That's unbelievable. So that's where I kind of refute the concept of things around it. We've highlighted that earlier. And then final thing that's going to end your positive note of the day, Ethereum, $4,000. Nice. So the question around a lot of the stuff, right, is what does it look like when we look at all-time highs? Bitcoin surpasses its all-time high. Ethereum, I think that it was higher than 4K at a point. I don't know. Holy smokes. Is this actually the all-time high for it? I don't know why that I thought it was like over 4K before. Yeah, so about 4,500-ish. Yeah, was the all-time high. And then Solana is basically not moving at all. And then the question remains of, well, what do these tokens look like for reaching their all-time high? But that's going to be it for this edition of XFeed, as we got 59 on the fear and greed. It's neutral. It doesn't matter. It's neither bullish or bearish. I feel pretty bullish going into the weekend, but we'll probably have like a market crash tomorrow or something crazy. I hope you guys enjoyed this, found it valuable. Again, any likes, comments, shares, very much appreciated. And if you are wanting to have a little bit more content from myself where I'm interviewing some of the best in the business, we do the RWA Segments podcast. Again, links in the description below if you're on YouTube, or if you happen to follow me on X, you can check that out in the linked tree bio. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys Monday. Peace.